Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the Western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
The Tale of Tom Kitten by Beatrix Potter, 1866–1943. Once there were three little kittens named Mittens, Tom Kitten and Moppet. They had their own soft fur coats and loved to tumble around the doorstep, playing in the dust. One day their mother, Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit, was expecting guests for tea, so she brought the kittens inside to clean and dress them before the company arrived. First she scrubbed their faces, starting with Moppet. Then she brushed their fur, beginning with Mittens. Next she combed their tails and whiskers, starting with Tom Kitten. But Tom was very naughty and tried to scratch her. Mrs. Tabitha dressed Moppet and Mittens in clean pinafores and collars. Then she pulled out all kinds of fancy but uncomfortable clothes from a chest of drawers to dress her son Thomas. Tom Kitten was very plump and had grown too much, so a few buttons popped off his clothes. His mother quickly sewed them back on. Once the three kittens were dressed, Mrs. Tabitha, without thinking, sent them outside to the garden to keep them out of the way while she made hot buttered toast. Now, keep your clothes clean, children. You must walk on your hind legs. Stay away from the dirty ash pit, Sally Henny Penny, the pigsty, and the puddle ducks. Moppet and Mittens wobbled down the garden path, and soon they stepped on their pinafores and tumbled, landed on their noses. When they got up, there were several green stains. Let's climb up the rockery and sit on the garden wall, Moppet suggested. They turned their pinafores around and scrambled up with a skip and a jump. Moppet's white collar fell down into the road. Tom Kitten struggled to walk on his hind legs in trousers and couldn't manage to jump. He slowly made his way up the rockery, breaking ferns and losing buttons everywhere. By the time he'd reached the top of the wall, he was a mess. Moppet and Mittens tried to help him fix his clothes, but his hat fell off and the rest of his buttons popped open. While they were struggling, they heard a pit-pat, paddle-pat, as the three puddle ducks walked down the hard road, one behind the other, doing a funny walk, pit-pat, paddle-pat, pit-pat, waddle-pat. The ducks stopped, lined up in a row, and stared up at the kittens. Their small eyes looked surprised. Then the two ducks, Rebecca and Jemima Puddle Duck, picked up the hat and scarf and put them on. Mittens laughed so loud that she fell off the wall. Moppet and Tom climbed down after her, and all of Tom's clothes fell off on the way. Come on, Mr. Drake, Puddle Duck, said Moppet. Come help us get him dressed. Help us button up Tom. Mr. Drake, Puddle Duck, walked over slowly, moving sideways, and picked up the clothes. But he put them on himself. They fit him even worse than they did on Tom Kitten. It's a lovely morning, said Mr. Drake, Puddle Duck. Mr. Drake, Jemima and Rebecca Puddle Duck walked off down the road, all in step, pit-pat, paddle-pat, pit-pat, waddle-pat. Then Tabitha Twitchit came down the garden and found her kittens sitting on the wall with no clothes on. She pulled them down from the wall, gave them a smack, and took them back to the house. My friends will be here any minute, and you're not presentable. I'm embarrassed, said Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit. She sent them upstairs, and I'm sad to say she told her friends they were in bed with the measles, which wasn't true. Actually, they weren't in bed at all, not even close. There were some very strange noises coming from upstairs, which interrupted the calm and quiet of the tea party. And I think one day I'll need to write a bigger book to tell you more about Tom Kitten. As for the puddle ducks, they went into a pond. All the clothes came off right away because there were no buttons to hold them on. Mr. Drake, Puddle Duck, Jemima and Rebecca have been looking for the clothes ever since.